Hey, welcome to Local Legacy. I'm your host, Nick Smith, where I sit down one-on-one, interview cool people with cool jobs and some amazing stories. Hey guys, welcome back to our newest episode of Local Legacy. I have the wonderful, amazing Miss Julie Deck with me here today from Coo Moo Jams. So welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I really appreciate it. So, as owner and operator of and CEO of Coo Moo Jams, all of it.
Yes.
Why don't you do us a favor, kind of introduce the company and then yourself as well.
Okay, great. I'm Julie Sumpter Deck. I go by both names, Julie Deck, Julie Sumpter Deck. And I am the owner of Coo Moo Jams. Started the business back in 2019, right before COVID. We didn't know it was coming then, but I decided after having a jam company prior to that with a business partner back in, I think that started around 2014, 13, 14. And we were making jams and we just were doing it more as a hobby. It was called the Three French Hens. It was great. We made all kinds of jams. Sold them at the farmer's market and just a couple local stores around town that helped. But it was more of a hobby than it was anything else. So unfortunately, my business partner, I lost her. She passed away. So, and it was right after my husband passed away. So I was going through a lot of change at that time. And I was off and I needed actually 2 brand new knees. And so I put the business on hold for
understandable.
Yeah, a couple years. So yeah, I couldn't stand and cook jams at a stove if I wanted to. So anyway, I once I got back on my feet again, got my knees all healed up, I thought, well, maybe I will go back. But I knew that I wasn't going to go back and do every jam that we made before, because every time a new fruit would come out in Brentwood, which, as you know, is often, we would make a jam with that flavor. Gotcha. So I knew our sweet and spicy jams were really the best sellers. So I decided to just do jams that had sweet and spicy, which is my favorite thing anyway. And so that's how I started. And I also knew that I was going to do something completely different than hens. And I decided a cow.
Okay. Yeah.
What I mean, a cute cow can sell anything, right?
It really can.
And so yeah, I decided. And I have been traveling to Scotland quite a bit and fell in love with the Highland hairy coo cows, and decided that somehow I was going to fit that hairy cow into my new business. So I thought about it and I came up with Coo Moo, because the hairy cows are actually called Highland cows or Highland coo.
Okay.
That's the way those Scots pronounce it.
Gotcha.
So anyway, that's how I started with Coo Moo. I came up with a name and then it just started to happen. And I eventually added a couple new flavors and it started. And then of course, COVID hit. It's great.
Yeah, right. Fantastic. It's funny. My daughter sends me every single Highland cow reel you can find on Instagram. Dad, I want this. Dad, I want this. I'm like, that's great, man. I don't know where you want me to put it. She's like, no, you have to buy us a new place so I can have my cow. I'm like, in a few years, you're going to be gone, right? You're in high school now. And so she's like, yeah, you could just take care of it while I'm gone and I'll come back. And I'm like, this is great. She loves.
They're adorable, and they're actually pretty friendly cows.
They are friendly, but they're huge.
They're huge,
and it doesn't work in a backyard.
No, it doesn't work in a backyard, and they're very, very hairy. So you can have them here in California.
Right.
Their coats change a little bit as they're in the warmer weather, but they're beautiful cows. So. I actually, and it was so funny because I was following a woman that painted cows, because I'm a cow. I love cows, obviously. And she was from England, and just all she did was paint cows. So I followed her for a long time, bought a couple cows paintings from her. And when I decided to start Coo Moo, I thought, I'm going to just ask her if maybe she would do, painting for me. And so I just texted her or sent her an email and said, listen, I'm starting this little jam company. I'd like to call it Coo Moo. And, but I'd love to have one of your paintings, but I don't know if I can afford you. So she wrote back and asked me what my budget was, and I told her, and she said, I'd be happy to do a cow for you.
Oh my goodness.
So that's how I call her Gracie.
Oh, that's how
Gracie came about and was developed a special tribute by this wonderful painter over in England.
That is fantastic.
Lauren Taylor is her name. You can look her up.
Lauren Taylor.
Yeah, Lauren Taylor. Yeah.
So why jams? What was the draw to that?
Well, after I'm a culinary nut. I love food and I love making food, and I actually went to culinary school for a little bit, and just wanted to learn, not necessarily to be a chef, but wanted to learn everything I could about how to make food, understanding the dynamics of different foods and what they're made of. So when I moved out here to Brentwood, oh my gosh, we're living in the breadbasket right out here. It's just wonderful. So I started to do some volunteer work, and I met my business partner, Minda. Minda Mata was her name, and she had a love for food as well, but she was actually a chef. So they love to make jams, and so we just started. We thought, let's make some jams and sell them, and that's how Three French Hens started. And I just fell in love with the fact that you can go right out your door and literally get a strawberry that was picked 2 hours prior to that. Right. And make something wonderful from it. So that's how it started, and just my love of food.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic how it transitioned into that.
Yeah,
and just to be like the niche of jams, it's unique, right?
Yes,
you don't see it often. I want to talk a little bit about COVID and how that experience was for you, brand new business owner, right? On your own.
Yeah.
Right. Can't be easy.
Right.
And so how was that experience for you? And how did you kind of get through it?
Well, it was interesting because we were able to launch the business. And so everybody started to know and were kind of getting excited about the jam. So then COVID hit and we were stuck inside. Well, oh my goodness. So thank goodness I had already had the jam made. And what we did was we just found a little niche, how everybody started to do little businesses. So I would start delivering jams to people's homes and just put it on their porch. And so we kept doing it that way. And it was actually turned out pretty well. Joey Nardone for a Brentwood Craft Beer and Cider, bless his heart, he offered to sell some for me. So he kept it, and he had his doors open where he was selling outside. You couldn't go in, but you could sell them. And bless his heart, he sold quite a few jams for me there, still does. And so it just, thank goodness, was able to keep it going. It wasn't anything like we had started this momentum of trying to get them in stores, and a few of the local stores had gotten them, Gursky Ranch and Macaulay Olive Oil Store, and a few of those had purchased them. But again, their doors closed, right? So it was difficult, and really just tried to develop the delivering service and telling people, even though we're stuck inside, we can still eat jam.
Right. Became the new slogan.
We can still eat jam.
That's fantastic. Yeah. It's a unique perspective because it was just kind of getting off the ground at that time.
Yes.
So there's a word I always use in business, and I've been using it forever, and it's the word pivot.
Yes.
And you have to be able to pivot in business, right? Because no market is always the same. No business always stays the same. Competitors change. They come and they go, right? So being able to pivot and not being so stuck in our ways and hard-headed on our idea that we originally came up with is really one of the unique factors I find with people, and how they survive and start to thrive is coming from, learning, adaptability, and being able to pivot the business when the time is right, and not being scared to, because you got to be able to change.
Yeah, it was really scary because all of a sudden I'm sitting there with all these jams and we couldn't go out of the house pretty much there for a first few months. So, yeah, it was scary. But we, like I said, thank goodness for social media.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for other small businesses. You know, the charcuterie boards were started through COVID, which was a great opportunity because our jams are perfect on charcuterie boards. So there was a lot of little small local companies that started, and they were buying my jam to put on their boards, and so that helped us a lot too. It really did. So when we started coming out of COVID, I started then trying to get back into stores and a few things like that. So it's been good. It's been good.
So you had almost the brand awareness already.
Yes.
Right. You just needed some outlets that help you kind of raise the bar, go to the next level.
Exactly.
It's funny because that's exactly how my wife found the salsa we have at home.
Yes.
Was during COVID.
Wow.
And the lady would make it at home, and then she would deliver it to our door. And to this day, it's still. But now we can go pick it up.
Yeah.
So we just go pick it up, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's exactly.
I think that's how most small businesses, especially ones that were starting the grassroots businesses like the charcuterie boards, it was out of need. And also of the community. I mean, people wanted to eat fun things, even though we were stuck at home. And these businesses found that little niche. And, we were able to kind of place our jams with them. So it was great. It worked out perfect.
I love it. I love it. So when you were back, before both the businesses kind of started on your own, did you just always kind of dabble in the food? I know you went to culinary school, but you had a completely different career prior to, right?
Yes. I had my own business for 22 years. I was in the public record business. I did public record research. It was called Sumpter and Associates. So that's why I also go by Julie Sumpter Deck, because so many people know me by Julie Sumpter. And so I did that for 22 years. But prior to that, I was in the public record business, selling public records to companies. And I worked for Prentice Hall Legal and Financial Services back in the late 90s. And we were the first company to put public records online. So it was an exciting time. So I was able to learn so much about public records and what that means. A lot of people don't know what's out there and what information that you provide to certain agencies and things like that become public record. And so, I was kind of a paid snoop for 22 years. It was a lot of fun.
That's fantastic.
Actually, I could find out things on people and companies that, most people wouldn't know where to look. But
that's
it's
crazy.
fun.
And it's funny how that transitions, how like we evolved from those times. I just heard a commercial this morning on how AI is now able to take your search history and create a podcast from it.
Whoa.
So no research needed, no public records needed,
No,
right? It is just like, so going from like, that was a lot of grind work, right? Hours and hours.
Hours and hours I would spend in the counties and researching, because that was the only way that you could get the records. Another interesting thing, I ended up closing Sumpter and Associates right at the end of COVID because, again, when everything shut down, all the counties that, county records and state records that had not been previously online, they ended up having to put online because that was the only way that they were going to be able to provide that service to the people that needed it. So that sort of eliminated then the need for my services of going out and researching them. So COVID had an impact on Sumpter and Associates and on Coo Moo. So we closed that business, got this one going, and was thought it might take me into retirement, but I'm not quite ready to retire full time yet.
Right. But you enjoy it, right?
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's just a fun thing because I can be out talking to people. I love being in sales, and I love, especially when you love something, if you're in sales, when you love what you're doing, you can sell anything, right? And when you believe in what you're selling, you can sell it. It's, I learned that many years ago when I was selling public records, and it was so much fun. And I loved doing it.
Yeah.
And it was an easy job to go out and sell that because I loved what I was doing.
When you're helping people.
Yes.
And you're creating better around you. And that's
Yeah.
really kind of the foundation for what I do.
Yeah.
I'm 100% believer in home ownership, and people should be, owning their properties.
Property.
And to be able to help them and guide them through that process is just, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't get tiring, it doesn't get old.
Exactly.
Right? It gets hard, and it gets frustrating at times, but that's business, right?
That's right.
But if you're in the people,
pivoting.
you're right, exactly. But we're in the business of people, and if we truly care and love to help people, then it works out in the end, and it's really, really beneficial. So that's the business, Julie.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the personal, Julie.
Okay.
Kind of, give me some insight. Now, you and I met at Rotary.
Yes. Yep.
Rotary.
Yep.
And so, but before that, what did you do? You said you were out in the community kind of starting the company, right? So I know you have
but
a
I've
ton of
always been one that liked to give my time. I always loved working for nonprofits, doing volunteering. I've been a volunteer all my life. I worked for probably Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Animals, ARF, remember ARF? It's no longer ARF, it's Joybound now, but I worked there. I always tried to do something of giving up my time. I feel extremely blessed in this world to have the life that I've had, and I really believe that I need to give back. And I didn't have children, so that was another. I wasn't focused. I didn't have children to raise, so it gave me time to get out in my community and give back. So I kind of did all kinds of different things. But one of the things I think bothered me most about it was I would give the time, give money, but I never knew exactly where it was going,
Right.
And then when I moved out here to Brentwood back in 2009, I was invited to go to a Rotary meeting. And I tell you, Rotary actually, not, because there's a lot of wonderful organizations, but for the first time, I really felt like I knew where my money was going. I could see what the results of my putting in the time, what was happening there. And so, as Rotary time, treasure, and talent, and at least I saw the end results of what my time, treasure, and talents were doing. So I do Rotary, and I'm also, work with Brentwood Strong on the board there. And I also am on the board of Downtown Brentwood Coalition. I did some work. I was a Park and Rec commissioner for 2 years. And, and I'm also heading up the Day of Service here in town as well. So, a little busy, but you know what, I thought after I was president, of the Rotary Club last year, and I thought after that I was really going to take my time and not do anything.
Right.
That I don't think I'm made of in that fabric.
No.
So.
No. And that's what you hear a lot of times, especially after a year of being the president, because it is insane the amount of time, the commitment that you guys put out to do that, and then. We're fortunate to have leaders like you in the past. Dan was the first one when I was there, right? And then this year with Oscar. So it's like we're really, really fortunate to have great leaders like that. But it is exhausting. Your personal life takes a hit.
Yes.
Your business takes a hit.
It sure does.
And it's definitely the definition of service above self.
Yes.
For that year. So
yes.
But when you just have it in you.
Yeah.
You can't quiet that.
Yeah.
Right? You have that urge and that yearn to just give and to give back.
Exactly.
So,
and the nice side of the flip side of that too is even though you're not really promoting your business while you're doing this kind of work, people know you and know of your business.
Right.
So, it is it's kind of the nice side of being out there and giving out to your community because you get a lot back more than.
So it's almost like an unintended benefit of being out there and helping out, right?
Yeah.
It's giving it out and then we receive it in multiple different ways. So,
right.
So talk a little bit about Coo Moo Jams. What do we have? Like you talked about your specific flavors. What do you offer with them?
Well, we have 3 jams right now. We have our apricot habanero, which is our bestseller. We also have our peachy mango madness, I call it, and it's kind of on the same flavor profile as apricot habanero. It's just a little sweeter because the fruit is sweeter, and the peppers are not as hot. So it's in between. And then we have our triple berry margarita, which I tried to make after a margarita, believe it or not. And it does actually have a little tequila in it.
Okay.
But it burns off, of course. There's
Yes.
there's none in there. There's no alcohol in
Right.
it. But try to make a fun jam with that, and it's more of a berry, it's more of a sweet, smoky spice. So it's a little variation. And then also we have our Worcester sauce, which is actually a spicy Worcestershire sauce. I know, saying Worcestershire sauce.
It's not an easy word.
No, it is not an easy word.
No.
And I have always loved Worcestershire sauce. Put it
I'm a
on
big
everything,
fan.
right? So years ago, when I was in sales for Prentice Hall, I went to Texas and found some spicy Worcestershire sauce. I bought out probably every bottle that they had. I just loved it. And then they stopped making it. It was a small company in Texas that made it. And then, of course, this is what happens to me. I wake up at 3:30 in the morning, somewhere around in that time frame, and I thought, why am I not making spicy Worcester? I could do that. And even though it has nothing to do with jams, I knew that I could do it, So I got up that next morning and started researching recipes. I spent about 2 months. My house smelled like Worcestershire sauce for 2 months. And I made every kind of variation that you could make, but I knew I wanted to do something really fun with it. And it's a spicy one.
Okay.
And but I also make it with this really unique product called yacon syrup. And it's a syrup that comes out of Nepal. And it's so there's no sugar at all in that, not any regular sugar. The sweetness comes from this yacon syrup that and it looks like a potato. If you look at it, it's a yacon, and it just looks like a big fat potato.
Wow.
But they get this really wonderful juice from it. And it's really good for your digestive system. It's great. So I made it unique by that. So that I just try to make my products just something a little unique about them.
Right. They're definitely unique in flavor, taste. They're absolutely amazing. So take us kind of through that process of the brainstorm idea, or I want to make this one, and then
I start out with sort of an idea like that with the Worcester sauce. I knew, like, even with the berry jam, I wanted to do something. I love berries, and I thought I wanted to do something with that. But I tried regular peppers with that. It was just a little too much. So I just thought I'd go more towards the smokier side, And I use peppers in there that are a little bit different, and Aleppo pepper, which is really yummy, but it's a little on the smoky side. So that just seemed to match a little bit better with the berries. And that's kind of how it's trial and error for me. Like I said, my kitchen looks like a little bit of a madhouse at times, because I'll try that pepper. I don't like it. Well, then next day I'll try it with a new one. So I keep trying different things. And once I get the pepper, or once I get it down to where I believe I've got it where I want it, then it's a matter of taking it to the kitchen. I use a professional kitchen, a commercial kitchen. I can make these jars myself if I wanted to, but I'd have to rent a commercial kitchen. It's got to be certified by the state. There's all kinds of things that go into really making a jar of jam that probably nobody has an idea about.
Right.
But my jams are made in a commercial kitchen that have a canning license, which is a very different license than any others. Lots of kitchens out there, but they may not have a canning license.
Gotcha.
And that's usually we're working with high temperatures, making sure you know how to work with high temperatures, and so that you can kill off all the bacteria that might be in the jar. So my jars are all tested by every batch is tested by the state of California. Yeah. We get a certification, and then that allows me also to be able to sell on the internet. I can sell outside of California without having any problems, and plus it's an amazing process, and I can make 1,800 jars of jam.
Right.
Which I just had made. Yeah. Unfortunately, we had to pivot again on that one.
Oh, yes.
Nick, because my bestseller, Apricot Habanero, we were running out. And so another thing that came out of COVID was I lost my kitchen. Before COVID, there were a lot of options for getting canning licensed kitchens to do your jams. But after COVID, I must have probably called 10 different kitchens, all that had closed their doors, because they just didn't make it through They needed to be able to make jams during that time, and
Right.
we're not able to do it. So I actually have a new kitchen I did find up in Auburn that does make them. We got on board in May, and because they do most of their they do a lot of tomato products. My jams got put off until after tomato season, which was fine. I still had product to work with, but the process that it goes through, because my jam has to be tested several times, and we do test batches, and then it has to go to the state. There's a whole process to it.
Right.
We didn't get into the kitchen until November. That was okay. At least I was going to try to get done before my busiest season, which is Christmas. And we got in, we made the jam, 1,800 jars, brought them home, got up the next day to check them to make sure that they gelled, because that's always my biggest worry. Did they become jam? I opened the jar and they were all hard as rock. Hard as rock. Not edible, not sellable, couldn't do anything with them. Thank goodness the kitchen is redoing them for me. It was just really the pectin. It was the pectin that we use. The pectin is a product that's made from apples, and it makes jelly and jam thick and jammy.
Gotcha. Okay.
But if you're not using the right pectin,
Right.
it will have all kinds of adverse effects, and it did on this particular brand. So, needless to say, we pivoted.
Yep.
And we're getting them remade, but I missed out on my Christmas season. So it was a little hard, but you know what I did? I just tried to sell my other brand. I got the other products out. That the bestseller wasn't there, but we were able to get the other ones out, and they helped, they made up for the lost one. But we're hopefully by next week going to have the apricot habanero back. So keeping my fingers crossed.
Being a business owner, it's fun.
It is.
You just never know what's going to happen.
You don't know what's going to
You don't know
happen.
what's going to happen.
No.
And you have to be able to pivot off of those things.
Yeah.
And maybe you've introduced people to a new flavor now.
Exactly.
A new jam that they didn't know they loved.
Yes.
And that
because
will help in the future.
and it's like anything. You get stuck on one. Well, the
Right.
one you really like, you don't
Right.
really want to move off of that one. So it was just coaxing a little. Try
Right.
this. I think you might like it.
Help you expand your palate a little bit in the jam world. So I love that story, because that's the real raw side of business owners. So when that can't be the first trial struggle that you've come across.
No.
How do you get past those? How do you maintain the positivity, like the joy? How does that what is kind of your focus to allow you to move forward in those times?
Well, I after I have my meltdown,
Right.
because there are tears involved in that.
100%.
Once I have that, and I need to get that out of my system.
Yep.
Then I have to sit down and be practical about, okay, what are you going to do now? What are your options? Because you only have control over certain amount of things, right? The kitchen was using a pectin that they thought was going to work. It wasn't that they were doing anything bad. They thought this pectin was going to work. In this case, it didn't.
Okay.
So at that point, then we have to make sure that we get the right pectin. So really the plan was, let's do whatever we can to get the kitchen back on, get them in, and start working for it. That's the only thing I could do. And I'm having to, in the meantime, call my clients up, my stores that are selling, because they're all needing jam. And I'm trying to explain to them what happened. And, thank goodness everybody's understanding. And at a certain point, I just realized there's not anything else I can do that's in my control. I had to let it go, and that's not easy.
Yeah.
And just focus on moving forward and getting the jams made and getting them made properly, and then, moving on from there and getting a plan once I get that, those jars that are the good jars that are the real thing again. What do I do then? Then I focus on getting them out into the marketplace, that I wasn't able to do, make up for the business that I lost at Christmas. So.
I can just imagine making those phone calls, and it's funny to my brain, because it's like how many times did you have to explain what pectin was in the phone
Yeah.
call? Like, what?
Well, and that,
We use the what?
people, look at me sometimes and go, what is pectin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and, unfortunately, you just have to have pectin to
Right.
make a jam,
Just make it. Yeah.
and that's not something, but it's a natural product. It's
Yeah.
made with apples, which a lot of people don't know about. But
Right. I had no clue.
it's,
So
it's,
it's
it's such an
fascinating.
interesting,
Yeah.
getting that little jar of jam for you to buy takes
Right.
so much work
Yeah.
and time and effort. And then you have to buy the labels
Mhm.
and, so I had to reorder 1,800
gonna say.
labels again.
In this case, you got to redraw them, relabel them.
Yes,
Right? The whole
relabel
process
the
has
whole
to
process.
do it all over again.
But,
so.
I could choose to let it get me down, but I'm pretty much a pretty positive person most
Right.
of the time. So it's not hard for me to get back there, but I do have those moments where I completely melt down
Yeah.
and like I said, I'm good at crying,
Right.
so that doesn't take much.
No.
So I just get those tears out of me, and then once I get rid of the disappointment and the frustration part of it, then I can start. Okay, now what are we going to do? And it's always just going back to what is in your control.
Right.
What is it that I can do, that I can control to help move the business forward.
Control the controllables.
Ah.
It's a tagline
Yeah.
I live by in my house.
Yeah.
All of the time. Control the controllables, and that's all you can do, right?
That's all you can
You're in
do.
charge of your attitude. You're in charge of your effort.
Yeah.
That's what I preach to my kids all the time.
Yeah, and I think also because I'm so involved in the community too, that it just helps me, it kind of takes my focus off the negative parts of what's happening in the other side of my business world. Maybe I can focus on, adopt a senior or doing
Right.
something. During Christmas, we were so busy with,
Yes.
community trust and adopt a senior. I didn't have a lot of time to focus on the fact that I didn't have any product.
Right. Yeah. And I was there with you. We served, I think it was over 500 families.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
you didn't bring up the jam one time.
Not one time.
Going through it, right?
No,
Okay.
because really the most important thing at that moment is getting those families
Right. Yeah.
taken
No,
care of,
it really- and it helps you kind of put it all into
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
Of last time fortunate.
Yeah.
And then being able to get back. So
And that's really the wonderful thing about service.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Right.
And I can't, and I know, Nick, you're involved too, and you're out there with me on most everything that we're out there doing. And, if you can tell anybody anything, I always recommend, get your kids out doing service.
Yeah.
There's nothing that bad can come from that.
No, I actually brought them to the one of the nights where they're separating toys.
Oh, yeah.
But I was blown away by the amount of kids that were there.
I know.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know how many bags, how many toys. It was insane. And then we were able to then load an entire truck of stuff. And we did
Food.
it within an hour and a half of just coming out. So being able to bring them out to expose them to
Yeah.
those things and explain to my 8-year-old what we're actually doing.
Yeah.
Right. To give them some perspective on it. It is huge. It is. And I always say, there's no sense in going out, working hard, climbing to the top of the mountain. If you look behind you and nobody's with you.
Yeah.
Right. So I want them to experience all of that. The good
That's
times,
right.
the hard times, all the,
Yeah.
being able to give back. So it's some seed that we try to plant for sure. So.
And I'm a true believer in, you do good things come back.
Yeah. No, 100%. 100%.
So,
Yes.
that's my philosophy on life.
And I agree. 100%. All right, Julie, I really appreciate you coming in.
Oh, thank you so much, Nick.
Sharing so much about not just the business side, but the personal side and how it really all comes together. So do us a favor.
Okay.
Let us know how we can get a hold of you, websites, social medias. Where can we
Oh my
find some
gosh,
Coo Moo Jams?
you can find me. Coo Moo Jams. You can find them at www.coomoojams.com. That's our website. You can order from there. If you're local here in Brentwood, you can just go to Gursky Ranch, Brentwood Craft Beer and Cider, McCauley Olive Oil Store, Urban Edge Farm when they're open, Salt and Fig, All Love downtown. There's several stores listed on the website. We've got stores in Carmel, in Phoenix, in San Diego, Napa. So if you're around in any of those places, be sure to check our website out and you'll be able to find out where we're at there. But on social media, find us under Coo Moo Jams on Facebook and also on Instagram. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
So thank you so much. I
Thank you,
really
Julie.
appreciate being here.
Yep.
It's the best.
Thank you so much for coming
Thank
in.
you.
As always, guys, that's another episode of Local Legacy. And as you know, I'll catch you guys on the next one.